What do a brutal, lung-burning 90-minute soccer match, a delicate ballet performance, and the geopolitics of the Cold War all have in common?
I mean, at first glance,
Yeah.
absolutely nothing. Like, they seem to occupy completely different universes,
Right.
operating by totally different sets of rules.
But today, we are actually going to look at how they are deeply intertwined. Our source material for this deep dive is a really fascinating excerpt from Reverend Sun Myung Moon's autobiography.
Specifically, it's a chapter titled Kicking and Dancing for a World of Peace.
Yeah, that's the one. And our mission today is to explore this really profound proposition in the text. Like the idea that sports and the arts aren't just, weekend hobbies or mindless entertainment for you to consume.
Right, they're not just distractions.
Exactly.
Yeah.
According to the author, they are actually incredibly potent tools for dismantling global conflict and ultimately reflecting divine creativity.
Which, I mean, that requires a fundamental shift in how we usually view history.
Oh, for sure.
We are so conditioned to look at geopolitics through this rigid institutional lens. We look at treaties, borders, economic sanctions.
Nuclear deterrence, yeah.
Exactly. But the text we're examining today, it invites you to look at those exact same global tensions through a completely different lens, specifically through the lens of a soccer ball and ballet slippers.
It's wild. Okay, let's unpack this because to understand how a philosophy moves from just, kicking a ball around to actually fostering world peace, we have to look at the ultimate pressure cooker environment.
Which takes us to the year 1988.
Right. We were at the Summer Olympics in Seoul.
Yeah.
And the world is still deeply entrenched in the Cold War at this point.
Yeah, the Berlin Wall hasn't fallen yet. The
Yeah.
threat of global conflict is, well, it's just a daily reality for everyone.
The stakes could literally not have been higher. And the author didn't just see this as another athletic competition.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
He saw it as a literal festival of peace happening right in his own backyard. The crucial element here, the thing you have to remember, is participation.
Because previous Olympics had been heavily boycotted.
Exactly. Opposing global superpowers just wouldn't show up. Yeah. But in Seoul, both China and the Soviet Union sent athletes.
Wow.
Yeah. And the author recognized that this shared space, this massive international sporting event, offered a rare, tangible chance to critically alter the dynamics of the Cold War era.
It's like the ultimate global block party meant to melt the Cold War ice.
That is a great way to put it.
But it wasn't just a passive observation for him. The text notes that he mobilized members of his movement from all over the world to travel to Seoul for the event.
Yeah, they weren't just sitting in the stands eating popcorn.
Right. They were actively trying to facilitate this peace on a microscopic human level.
They were essentially acting as citizen diplomats.
Mhm.
They guided the international athletes and officials. They served them food. They cheered for them.
They gave them mementos of their visit to Korea, I think it said.
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about the psychology of that, it's pretty staggering. You have athletes from the communist bloc who have been told for decades that the free world is their sworn enemy, suddenly being served meals and cheered on by regular people from that very world.
It just completely breaks down those ideological walls person by person.
It really does. And that momentum didn't just dissipate when the Olympic torch went out.
No, it didn't. The text details how the author channeled that exact same energy directly into founding professional soccer teams. Like, he started the Ilbo Chinma team right there in Korea.
Which went on to win several championships, by the way.
Right. And then he expanded his vision to Brazil, which the text reverently calls the home of samba football.
He founded Clube Atlético Sorocaba and Centro Esportivo Nova Esperança, or CENE.
CENE, yeah. And the choice of Brazil wasn't random at all. Soccer in Brazil is, it's practically a religion.
Oh, absolutely. It's an international language there. By establishing teams there, he was embedding this philosophy into a culture that already understood the unifying power of the sport.
It fostered tremendous international goodwill that totally transcended language barriers. But I absolutely love a specific detail from the text here because it shows such a human, relatable side to all this grand geopolitical strategy.
Oh, you mean his personal obsession with the sport?
Yes. The author had a deeply personal obsession with soccer. He mentions doing boxing and martial arts in his youth, but soccer was the one sport he continued to enjoy well into old age.
The World Cup anecdote is amazing.
It is. During the World Cup in Seoul, he literally had 3 television sets set up side by side in his room just so he could watch all the games simultaneously.
Just incredible.
He made sure he never, ever missed a single game that Korea played.
That 3 TV setup is just a fantastic image of total immersion. But it brings us to a larger question the text spends a lot of time exploring. Like, why soccer specifically?
Yeah, how does running around a muddy pitch for 90 minutes actually translate to a broader philosophy of life?
Right, because on the surface, it's just 22 people chasing a sphere of leather around some grass. It seems almost too simple to hold a mirror up to the human condition.
But the author explicitly describes soccer as a microcosm of life.
He does. And the reasoning lies in the mechanics of the game itself. Like, think about how a soccer match actually unfolds. You could be having the game of your life.
Executing a perfect dribble down the entire length of the field.
Exactly. But if someone from the opposing team, who happens to be just a fraction of a second faster or slightly more skilled, comes along and steals that ball.
In a single instant, all of your previous effort is reduced to nothing.
Precisely.
Or, oh man, think about the heartbreak of the goalpost. The text specifically points out that you can do everything perfectly right. You take the absolute perfect shot.
And if it hits the post and bounces back, that's it.
That's it. Effort doesn't guarantee a clean result. The game is wildly unpredictable.
And because of that harsh, unpredictable reality, the absolute necessity of teammates becomes glaringly obvious. The author points out that you simply cannot do it alone.
Right. He uses some specific examples in the text, like needing someone like Ji-sung Park to be there for the critical assist at the exact right moment.
Or needing someone like young Pyo Lee who can adroitly draw the opposing team's defenders away from you so you actually have the space to move.
You need a dedicated community to absorb the chaos and achieve the goal.
You really do.
But, I do have to push back a little on the chaos itself. Like, sure, teamwork is great, but a soccer match is incredibly messy.
Oh, it's completely fluid and fast.
Yeah, it doesn't have the constant stops and starts you see in other sports. So if this is a microcosm of life, and life rarely feels like a perfectly executed play, who is actually in control of this chaos?
Because the players on the field are mostly just reacting to what's right in front of them.
Exactly.
Well, that tension between chaos and control is addressed by introducing a brilliant analogy in the text: the manager. According to the text, the most important person on the team isn't the star striker or the agile goalie. It's the manager watching from the sidelines.
Even though the manager doesn't run a single yard or score any goals.
Right. Yet their power is greater than all the players put together. And this is the author's direct metaphor for God.
So in this framework, we aren't dealing with a micromanaging deity who controls every single kick of the ball. It's more of a sideline signaling deity.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the manager has a vantage point that the players on the field simply do not have.
Because the players are in the thick of it.
Exactly. Their vision is blocked by other players. They're exhausted. Their perspective is limited to the few yards around them. But the manager sees the entire field.
They see the overarching patterns.
The gaps in the defense, the fatigue setting in on the other side. And based on that broader perspective, the manager gives signals. The author writes that God operates in the exact same way, seeing the vast patterns we cannot see and giving us signs.
And then the onus is on the players to actually look up and follow those signs.
That is the absolute key. If the players follow the manager's signs, they have a high chance of winning. But if the players are foolish, if they ignore the signs and just play according to their own limited individual thinking.
The text is clear on that. The team can only lose.
Yeah. The metaphor suggests that divine guidance doesn't eliminate our free will or the grueling physical effort required. It just provides the winning strategy if we actually choose to tune into it.
Okay, so we have this really profound philosophical framework where the pitch is the world, the players are us, and the manager is the divine.
Right.
But reading this, I kept looking for how this actualizes on the real-world stage. And the source material really delivers by introducing a legendary figure who aligns perfectly with this philosophy, Pelé.
Oh, yeah. Not just Pelé, the legendary athlete, but Pelé, the peace activist.
Right, because he was appointed as Brazil's extraordinary minister for sport in 1995.
And the author recounts a meeting with Pelé in Seoul, where Pelé shared a story that practically defines this entire philosophy.
The Gabon story.
Yes. Pelé talked about playing an exhibition game in Gabon, Africa. And at the time, Gabon was in the middle of a brutal war. Like, bombs were actively exploding in the region.
But because of the soccer match, A ceasefire was called. Wait, the bombs literally stopped entirely just so they could play the game.
Just so they could play. It sounds like magic, but there's a deep psychological mechanism at play there.
Yeah, when those two warring sides stopped to watch Pele play, their shared love for the game temporarily superseded their deeply entrenched tribal or political hatred.
For 90 minutes, they weren't enemies. They were just fans of the beautiful game.
Wow. It proved that humanity has a shared language that is louder than the sound of artillery.
And the text notes that this was the exact moment Pele realized football was more than just a sport. He saw it as a shared means for all people to create world peace.
So, finding themselves in complete agreement, Pele and the author created an international competition called the Peace Cup.
Which was a massive undertaking. It started in 2003, held every 2 years, bringing famous teams from around the world to Korea.
They even took it global, right? Holding the 2009 men's tournament in Spain's Andalusia region.
They did, and they established a corresponding women's tournament, the Peace Queen Cup, held in alternate years, but the spectacle itself wasn't really the point.
Right. All the profits were directed toward a very specific mission.
The text states that all profits were used to support soccer events for children and youth in developing countries, specifically using the sport to help children with physical disabilities keep their dreams alive.
That's incredible. And they even partnered with the UN Refugee Agency, the Office of the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, to hold a youth soccer tournament in Liberia.
Liberia, which had just endured 15 years of devastating tribal warfare.
The population had dropped so precipitously it was under special UN protection. The people there were utterly exhausted by violence.
But the children gathered to play soccer and sing songs of peace.
The text emphasizes that the simple process of kicking the ball around wasn't just recreation.
No, it was actively teaching them vital skills. Teamwork, reliance on others, fair play.
If you think about the sociology of that, you really cannot pass a ball to someone and harbor deep hatred for them at the same exact moment. It requires trust.
Exactly. These are the exact sociological skills necessary for bringing harmony between warring factions.
Now, Liberia is a beautiful success story, but I want to bring up the most ambitious and, frankly, the most intensely debated goal mentioned in the text. The Peace Cup organization wanted to build a peace stadium right on the Israel-Palestine border.
Yeah, this is a major point in the book.
And just a quick note for you listening before we get into this. We are just impartially reporting what's in the author's autobiography here. Like, we aren't taking sides or endorsing any political viewpoints on this obviously incredibly sensitive and charged conflict. We're just looking at the ideas in the source text.
And that context is vital, because the idea itself is extraordinarily provocative.
With that said, building a massive stadium in an active generational conflict zone sounds a bit like trying to build a sandcastle in a hurricane. I read that part and thought, is this just naive optimism?
Well, the author actually anticipates that exact reaction.
Yeah.
He notes in the text that people say it is unrealistic and shake their heads.
But he counters that skepticism with what he calls his bull-headed strength of will.
Right. The logic presented in the text is raw but powerful. He says the adults might want to point weapons at each other, but the children will inevitably want to come to the stadium and kick a ball around.
The draw of play is universal.
And he believes it can overpower the draw of conflict. And amazingly, there is political traction mentioned in the text.
Yeah, it notes that a member of the Israeli cabinet said the stadium should be built in their territory, and a member of the Palestinian cabinet argued it should be in theirs.
But the author's stance is completely unyielding. He insists it must be built in a way that physically connects the two sides. He literally writes, "I am not one to be pressured into giving up my dreams."
Man, that bull-headed strength of will.
Yeah. But, that total grueling physical investment to manifest peace isn't limited to the muddy terrain of the soccer pitch. The author applies this exact same logic to a completely different medium.
High art, specifically ballet.
Which is such a fascinating conceptual leap, isn't it?
It really is. We move from the roaring stadiums to the silent tension of the stage. The author talks about establishing the Universal Ballet in 1984.
And at the time, Korea was considered a barren wasteland when it came to ballet.
It just wasn't part of the cultural landscape at all.
Yet today, as the text points out, Korea has world-renowned ballerinas. The Universal Ballet itself became internationally acclaimed.
They started by mastering the Western classics, right?
Yeah.
Pieces like Swan Lake and
The Nutcracker Suite, yeah. Eventually adding Don Quixote and Giselle.
Mm.
But the real diplomatic triumph happened when they began creating their own original works.
Like Shim Chung and The Love of Chen Yang. The critics loved it because they weren't just copying Western styles.
No, the dancers were praised for adding a uniquely Korean beauty to Western ballet moves. They perfectly harmonized Eastern and Western
It
styles.
wasn't just a performance, it was a cultural bridge that helped international audiences understand Korean heritage through a medium they already respected.
And the text also briefly notes he created the New York City Symphony Orchestra and the New Hope Singers
Yeah.
to further this artistic diplomacy.
But the focus on ballet is particularly striking to me. Just because of the physical reality of the art form itself, it is a medium of extreme contrasts.
Oh, absolutely.
When you watch ballet, it looks completely effortless. The dancers appear to be floating. They're smiling.
But underneath that illusion of weightlessness, it is brutal, agonizing physical labor.
It destroys the feet, it tears ligaments, it exhausts every muscle in the body. So how does pouring all that immense, agonizing effort into a dance routine connect to the divine? Here's where it gets really interesting.
The author provides a deeply poetic visual metaphor for this. He says that every time he watches ballet, he feels it must be what art in the heavenly kingdom is like.
Imagine the specific stance of a ballerina, standing perfectly on the absolute tips of her toes, holding her head up toward the heavens.
The author describes this as the perfect physical posture of awe. He calls it a look of ardent desire toward God.
It's humanity pushing their physical form to its absolute anatomical limit just to reach a fraction of an inch upward.
That is the crux of his artistic philosophy. The text states that in ballet, human beings are using the beautiful bodies given to them by God to express their love for him.
It's not just a dance.
No, it is an offering of extreme physical exertion. The author considers it the highest form of art for that very reason.
And I think that's the conceptual bridge right there. Whether it's a soccer player sprinting until their lungs burn for 90 minutes or a ballerina enduring intense pain to balance perfectly on her toes, there is this immense total exhaustion involved.
This is the grand unifier in the text. This is where the seemingly opposite worlds of sports and the arts converge.
Both of these pursuits require an absolute total investment of energy for the sake of a single moment in time.
They require you to pour out everything you have, holding absolutely nothing back in reserve.
Which, honestly, actually totally flips the way we usually think about the nature of creation itself.
How do you mean?
Well, usually when people think of the book of Genesis, the cultural image we have is that God just said a word, maybe snapped his fingers, and poof, the oceans are there, the mountains appear.
Right, it sounds pretty easy, almost passive, like a parlor trick.
Exactly. But the author forcefully corrects that misconception using the source text. He insists that the book of Genesis only makes it seem as though things came into being simply by God speaking a word.
The reality, according to the author, is that God invested all his energy into creating the waters and the land.
God poured his entire heart and exhausted his own energy into crafting human beings and the world.
It was a process of total grueling investment. What's fascinating here is the direct parallel the text draws.
Right.
A soccer player making a desperate run for a goal, investing every bit of energy as if their life depended on it. Or a ballerina pouring out her entire being on stage to execute a flawless routine. They aren't just entertaining us.
They're actively mirroring the immense, exhausting effort that God put into the creation of the universe.
Yes. The central thesis of the text is that pushing ourselves to our absolute limits, offering ourselves up completely for a single moment, is exactly how humankind comes to resemble God and achieve true greatness.
So what does this all mean? We aren't all professional soccer players or world-class ballerinas, but the core challenge the author presents applies to every single one of us.
It really does.
Where are you totally investing your energy? Are you treating your own pursuits, whether that's your work, your art, your relationships, or your community, with that same bullheaded strength of will?
Because the takeaway here is that world peace and personal greatness are not passive hopes that just drop out of the sky.
They require sweat, they require intense teamwork, and they require an audacious vision that pushes you past your perceived limits.
It leaves us with a very compelling and, frankly, somewhat uncomfortable question to mull over.
What's that?
Well, the author strongly suggests that total grueling investment of our physical and creative energy is the very thing that connects us to the divine, right?
Right.
If that's true, look at our modern world. We live in a society that constantly seeks effortlessness. We obsess over life hacks. We prioritize convenience above almost everything else.
That's so true.
If total exertion is the true bridge to the divine, what are we actually sacrificing when we avoid the hard work? Are we accidentally engineering the divine connection right out of our everyday lives?
Wow. A heavy, beautiful thought to leave on. Whether you're lacing up cleats, tying ballet slippers, or just tackling a difficult project at work, remember the manager on the sidelines and the immense value of leaving it all on the pitch. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pouring your energy into what truly matters.